Yeah, I feel what you mean again. When you can't afford,
mixers.
You can't afford mixers, so you get the cheapest vodka you can, and you're like, oh, that's disgusting.
Welcome guys to the first episode of The People That Build It, and we are here with Mikey Dove and his awesome R33 four-door drift car. Mikey, tell us a bit about yourself. Who are you?
I'm Mikey Dove. I'm from Barnstable, North Devon, and soon to be 28-year-old drifter, basically.
Nice. And what got you into cars?
I've been in cars for a long age, really, since I've been very, very young. My dad was around historic motorsport, which then meant I was around historic motorsport. Probably started to take a real interest in it when I was about 16, 17. And yeah, it just kind of snowballed from there, really. A bit of an addiction that never stopped going.
I was going to say, yeah, I was feeling it might be from a parental thing because, you know, your dad builds race engines and things like that, so...
Yeah, he does a lot of historic Alfa Romeo, he does a lot of Country Climax, so single-seater Lotuses. And I've kind of always been around cars, or there's been an exotic car in the garage, or there's been a race car in there, and we're going to meetings here, there and everywhere, so I've always if I didn't get into cars, I'd be very surprised looking back at my life.
Fair enough. What was your first car?
My first car was a Peugeot 106 that I then wrote off about 3 months later.
Nicely done. Full memories of it, or was it just the means?
Not really too fond memories. I still remember writing it off. Still remember going down the road on the roof. But yeah, it was a fun car. Yeah. It's just I was a bit too big for the boots.
When you're young, it's not if you're going to crash, it's when you're going to crash and how bad is it going to be.
Yeah, definitely.
You know,
definitely.
It's that you've got to once your first one's done.
Yeah.
You can
then learn to drive.
Why did you pick this chassis to drift? This R33 four-door?
So, I actually had, as you know, but the viewers won't, a FCR X7 before.
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, it was
We'll
awesome.
put a picture up if Mikey provides us one.
I will do my best to do that. And it was NA, it was street ported, and in all fairness, I absolutely loved that car, and I started to look into getting competing through Drift Outlaws, because they were doing a lot at the time. Yeah, it's bad and it's really strong.
Awful.
It's fucking... and yeah, I basically soon realised that the car I had wasn't good enough to actually compete in. So it was either spend a lot of money, put a different engine in, doing an engine conversion and building that car to spec, or buying one that I knew about and was almost proven, sort of thing. And that comes from, well, one of our friends, Chris, who had a 33 Skyline at the time, who drove it pretty well and basically was very reliable.
Nice.
So
that's a good thing to hear as I'm building an FC RX-7 drift car.
In all fairness, if I tell you, my FC was more reliable than my RB.
Yeah.
I used to beat on that car day in, day out. Used to give it absolute hell, and I have more problems with an RB25 than I actually had an FC rotary. I blew that thing up the 4th time I drove it, and that was through my own fault. And it wasn't anything too crazy, it was just lack of knowledge, really. If anyone wants to know, please leave in the comments below, and I will go into that story, but it is a little bit complicated. But yeah, I seen this on Jap Imports JDN Garage website.
Yeah.
I fell in love with it, contacted Paul Howard, who I'm good friends with, and yeah, just snapped it up real quick, and it was on its way before I kind of realised what was going on.
GDN Garage livery on there.
Yeah.
Or the graphic on there. And if you're after one, hit the link below, and we'll have a GDN Garage link down there that you can go and buy yourself one of these. How long have you been drifting for?
Wow. Not consistently, because I've had like a year off here and there sort of thing, but 7-8 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's like this thing's unfortunately been broken for a little while.
Yeah.
And I've had really good friends that have either lent me a car, or I've gone somewhere or bailed me out and said, do you want to have a go? So I've always kind of kept my hands on the steering wheel, my feet in the seat.
What got you into that? What got you into drifting?
It was actually a Redline magazine. So you may remember, but years and years and years ago, Redline...
I thought you were going to say, you may remember, but years and years ago, the internet used to be on paper.
No.
We used to go to shops and buy it.
No, I know your social security number is like 04 or something like that, mate, but it's not quite like that. No, Redline magazine, after it got less chatty sort of thing, I think when Steve Stavros, I can't even say his last name, when he was doing a lot of it, they did a... Stavtech, that's it. They produced a video with basically all sorts of, like a pulsar on there, time attack, and basically you had, when they ran King of the Ring, I think it was King of the Ring, in Wembley, or Race of Kings or something like that.
It was JDM All Stars.
JDM All Stars.
But they went over the bump in the middle.
Yep, JDM All Stars did that, and basically that was part of the video, and the other part was them doing, I think it was actually on the Togo Heroes DVD, or part of it anyway. Part of the section was like a closed road bit that they were doing with Julian Smith, Dan Chapman, and which was at the time his white PS13. And I fell in love with it from there on in. I looked at it, I thought it was badass, I loved it, the sound, the look, everything was really cool. And there was a couple of guys local, so I kind of started getting involved in, not save my pennies, but kind of get depressed by insurance companies telling me I can't afford stuff.
Yeah. What is your favourite thing about this car?
Has to be probably the arches.
Yeah?
Yeah, so you can't get any off-the-shelf over fenders for R33 four-door. And because most people with front fiberglass arches destroy them, or they break or whatever, I didn't particularly want that either, so I made full metal arches, front and rear, and basically the rears, you may be able to see from here, are cut into the door line, so you can still open the rear door. It's flared probably, I think, around 60-70 mark.
Yeah.
Can't remember because it was so long since I've done it, and it's all put into the actual door and the body properly, so there's no gaps. You can't see a tyre, and it looks as good as it.
Yeah, it's not going to chuck it all up into the car and fill it with
exactly.
smoke and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, fill it with random tyre rubber and crap from the road. Yeah, in all fairness, as stupid as it sounds, that's probably one of my favourite things about the car.
Nice. Flip side of that, what's your least favourite thing, or thing you would change, having looked back at it and used it and gone, I wouldn't do it that way?
Probably would have tried harder with the radiator in the front.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Before relocating it to the back?
Yes. I like it in the back, it's great in the back, it works. Whether I would have kept it there, whether it would have been a hindsight, and what I actually know now with probably more educated now, pardon me, I probably would have put a fresh rad and probably would have made it twin pass in the front, because I was finding after about 5, 6, 7 minutes of drifting or hot lapping, the ECU would cut the res, because basically it was the temperature was starting to creep up, and that's kind of my thing from there, to put the radiator in the boot. I still like it, it's cool. If I want to change the dry shaft, it's going to be a royal pain in the arse. Just because of where the pipe's routed, I'm still using a standard fuel tank, and it's not like I can go up over the rear arches or anything like that, because they're not fiberglass.
No.
So yeah, it is a bit of a compromise. It works fantastically well. But yeah, that's one of the things I probably would have put a bit more time into, and probably the other would be, I probably would have done something more to the engine. Whether it was not bugger up where I messed up, I'd probably put a bit more budget to the engine to kind of maybe future-proof some stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, mainly I've got GTR rods in the engine at the moment, but maybe putting forged ones in would have been a better idea.
Okay.
Just
stretching things up, basically.
Yeah, I mean that's if I have to really look into it. I'm really nitpicking now, sort of thing.
I mean, the thing I like about the rear rad setup, there's a couple of things. One is when I pulled up onto the drive earlier and saw it, there is just everything's got enough space.
Yes.
You don't have to worry about the intercoolers there, the
Yep.
oil coolers there. There's nothing trying to compact it all into one small space.
There's no compromises.
Heat soak between the two and all that sort of stuff. And because you run more coolant, it's got to be better for the vehicle once it's warmed up because there's more of it to
go around. There's more cooler.
But I could see there's a pain in the ass to do. And,
I mean,
and not something you can do lightly either. It's not just like swapping out your rad. It is
the whole lot.
Whole system.
If you want to dump the coolant, you it's like the rivers of Babylon, mate.
Yeah. So if you had to run a different chassis, if you had to start from scratch, and you couldn't pick an R chassis,
what would I pick?
What would you drive? What would you build?
What would I build now, or what would I build 5 years ago?
Okay, if you had to give this up now and start from fresh.
If I'd start from fresh, I would build an E46.
Yeah.
Yeah. Readily available, cheap shells. In all fairness.
Getting more expensive, but
more expensive, but they are because basically BMW owners aren't realising what happened to Nissan owners.
Well, and also I think there are just so many more of them as well.
There is.
You think
so
how many in
more
Europe BMWs were sold compared to how many, R chassis were imported.
It's the same as Japan with Chasers.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's insane. Their Chasers is our BMWs.
Yeah.
It's insane.
I think 93% of Japanese car market is their domestic stuff.
Jesus Christ.
7% is imported stuff. So there's just tons of that's why there's weird.
They love BMWs as well.
No, they do. It's a status symbol. If you've got one of those,
if you've got a BMW, you're high end. Whereas we're just crashing BMWs into walls.
Yeah,
just riding clean off.
So E46.
I'll probably build an E46. I've driven a few of them. I like the way they drive. As soon as I got, I do lock kits for them. But as soon as I got a bit of extra lock and some caster, and they really drive really nice. I think they have the mechanical grip through them. I quite like them. If I couldn't choose that, I would build an FC. I love my old FC, and I still miss it to this day. I'll probably build a FC with a JZ or something like that in it. Nice. I know Rob Cousins did exactly the same thing, and that car was sick.
Yeah.
And fun fact for you, I sold my FC, which was a white FC, and I got this a week before I was due to go to Driftland for Final Boss. And we drove up to Driftland. I'd never driven this car before. Drove on a Friday, did it Saturday and Sunday, worked perfectly. And I think it was just midway through the Saturday or the Sunday, I can't remember. But I was round the park, basically they're running the fast layout. So by the wall, back round and that way. And I was 3/4 way around the lap and I heard a noise and I literally turned to my right and there's Rob Cousins in his white FC on my door.
Your old car is chasing you, not your actual old car.
Not my actual old car, but a white
like
FC was literally on my door. And if time could slow down and you could hear a song in your head, it was like "Hello Darkness, my old friend." That's I literally looked at I shouldn't have sold the car. But yeah, I'll probably build an FC just because of how cool they are.
Dream car. If you could pick any car in the world, not for drifting, not for just it's the one. If you want a little race, the first thing you'd buy.
See, I don't think it would be anything too special. I think it would be like a 330D, like Beamer or something like that.
You'd buy a family wagon.
Yeah, I would. I would, or I'd have something luxurious. I love M4s, I love like M2s and all that lot. I think a lot of that kind of stuff is amazing, but yeah, I don't know. Well, when this actually works, I've got the car that I can be a complete idiot in, and that kind of not scares me every time I drive it because it doesn't. I enjoy and I have fun with, and it is my toy sort of thing. So for if I was going to do it, it would be just a car that I can get in, turn key, and wash me from A to B. It's silly to say that, it really is.
Cutting all this answer out because it's boring as fun.
Such a boring answer, I love it.
someone's just got their first drift car.
Yeah.
Well, they intend to drift it. It's not a drift car yet.
Okay.
Because it's not a drift car until you drift it.
Yeah.
So they just bought it. Going to learn to drift. What's the 3 mods you tell them to do to it? The first 3 things you should do if you want to get into drifting.
Weld the diff.
Weld the diff.
Put decent coilovers on it.
Put decent suspension on it.
Decent. I'm not talking about 200 quid eBay coilovers. I'm
those.
talking about a set of BCs or a set of HSDs. They're not particularly expensive. A set.
Something you can tweak, right? Something
Something you can tweak, you can lower, you can stiffen, you can actually use. And a decent bucket seat.
100%. Do you know what? That's the first 3 things I said as well.
Yeah.
When I was like, it's amazing what a bucket seat does.
Yeah, definitely. My fourth would be a steering wheel.
Yeah.
Because it's amazing how much difference. It was actually one of my mates, Henry Gordon, was sat next to me in the FC. And I peeled out of a junction because that's what you did, obviously.
Private racetrack, obviously.
Yeah, junction on a racetrack.
Yeah.
Junction on a racetrack. They exist. You've seen them. And he said to me, he was like, mate, you need a steering wheel. And I was like, no, I like the steering wheel, it's fine. He said, no, because you don't notice that you lean forwards as you start drifting, so you're not relaxed.
Mm-hmm.
If you actually sat back and relaxed and the steering wheel's further towards you, you've got more control because you're not holding yourself up, you're not stiff and you can feel the car more.
Yeah. I mean, if you've ever done, and I've done it a couple of times, drift days without a bucket seat, you just get bruises on your knees, first of all, because you're just gripping onto the side. The other thing that always gets me, it's so simple, gloves. Gloves, I find, make a hell of a difference.
They do. I sometimes run them, I sometimes don't. I can take them or leave them, sort of thing. If I'm doing demos or whatever, I generally will run gloves, boots, race suit, mainly because I've paid for them, so I want some use out of them.
Yeah, fair enough.
But if we can give drifting a bit more of a professional outlook with fireproof race suits, a proper helmet and gloves and all that lot, I prefer to do that. So at least people who aren't sure about drifting kind of look at it and go, well, in all fairness, he's in all the gear. You're not in a pair of trackies and a hoodie sort of thing.
Why is Streeter so bad?
Is that an actual question?
That's an actual question.
Oh, wow.
I'm against Streeter, by the way. I don't drift on the streets. When I do, I crash. But I also need my license for my job. So,
why is Streeter bad? For a lot of places, especially around here, I'll openly admit I've done Streeter before. Like, I can't deny that because I can't give a proper answer without saying I have done. This was many years ago. The cost is hideously high because I would, as like a 21, 22-year-old, I'll go through a set of tyres quite easily in a month or even a night before I've done it. There's only so much you can do with Streeter. You can push yourself, fine, but if you make a mistake, it's a hell of a lot worse than if you made a mistake at a drift day or a practice day sort of thing.
Everyone who's on a track knows the rules of a track, which is that
for the most part,
if an accident happens, it's no one's fault.
Yeah.
Right? You're on a track. It's not the person behind's fault. It's not the person in front's fault. It's not the person who caused the accident's fault. It's just a race accident because it's happened. And if that means that your car's all dented down one side and there's all dented in the front, then that's it. You just have to go into it knowing that might happen.
Yeah.
On the street, if you smash into someone and end up doing some damage, you're in big trouble.
I always found that I would do Streeto and it'd be fine, but when I went to practice days, I always had much more seat time. I always learned much more in that one day rather than going around the roundabout and peeling out the roundabout the other side. And for me, it pushed me more, and that was when Dakota used to get 10 runs in a day, and now there's no real excuse, I suppose, because Dakota runs so smoothly these days that it's usually open pit lane by like 2 o'clock in the afternoon.
Yeah. So the nearest racetrack to here is, and this is the only reason I can think people would do it, is the nearest racetrack to actually drift at here is 4.5 hours away. Really?
Yeah, for the most part.
The only dedicated drift track in the whole of the UK is
Pod?
the dedicated drift track.
Oh, that's Driftland. Is dedicated,
which is 9 hours away.
No, that's 10 hours.
Yeah, but
I've done that journey. That's 10 hours.
Yeah. So it's not like you can just jump in the car, drive an hour, and go and drift. Although there are some places where you can.
Yeah, as I say, Smooth Farp in Dakota, same place. Basically, Smooth Farp Dakota is the same. It's just Smooth Farp is a place. Dakota is the actual brand that run it.
How long did this car take you to build?
I mean, is a car ever done?
That's a good point. We talked about this yesterday.
We did. I would really love to say it wasn't. Like there is a date, there is a set time. This is a finished product.
Could you guess the hours?
No.
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 Fair enough.
There's too many late nights. No way in hell early mornings. So many hours have gone into this. Either talking about it, working on it. Like,
I like that you put talking about it into the build.
Well, yeah, because like I will talk to my old man and run through ideas and designs, and like me and him quite a similar kind of thinking pattern. Because he's been in motorsport for 40 odd years, sort of thing. I guess probably a bit more. He's seen it all. He's done it all. If you see what I mean. So I bounce off ideas off him, and we might tweak it and do it. And I still see that as you develop in the car. You know, rather than doing 5 versions of it, it's just one with maybe a small tweak.
Yeah. The cage I was building recently for the FC, the bit I didn't show in the video was like after every bar, the 3 hours I spent just staring at it, figuring out which bit's going to go next and where it's going to go and how it's going to
quite literally. There is so much of that. I'll say to someone, I'll pack up now and go in, and if I need to do something on the front of the car, I'll be looking at the front of the car for the next 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because I'll be going, well, can I put this here, and would that be better over there, and do I have any problems if I put that there? So, like, I'll still stare at the car.
Yeah. And the great thing is you'll come up with your best solution, and you'll build it, and someone will go, well, why don't you just do this? And you go, yeah, that would work too. And I never even thought of it.
I've had I've had a few ideas, a few times of that, and I went, yeah.
Yeah.
It's always the way though. But in all fairness, if it's a better idea, it's a better idea. Use it.
Isn't it? If you couldn't run the RB engine, what engine would you run?
I don't know what I'd put in this if I didn't have an RB in it. My own mates talk about it quite often. I know what I'd put in it. M50 turbo.
Yeah, the BMW engine.
M50. I really would. M50 turbo. Cheap engines in all fairness. Cheap engines. If you're gonna spend the money, rods are going to be the same price. In all fairness.
Yeah.
Pistons will be roughly the same price. Bearings will be. There's nothing too crazy. The only thing really that changes in my eyes is the actual heads on it. So cams, how available the cams are, which, in all fairness, if you want, like my ideal goal would be like 650 horsepower. Like that would be way more than I would ever use and ever need, for Christ's sake. But you can probably do that on standard BMW cams if you really want to. If you've got clever with watt turbo and a bit of flowing, basically pointing in the head, and then that manifold, exhaust manifold. Exhaust manifolds, for the most part, might cost you 200 quid more than the average kind of JZ or RB.
But if you didn't spend on it, let's say you bought stock block, turbo conversion, and ECU to control it all.
Yeah.
450?
What for a M50?
You can get 450 horsepower quite easily without breaking a sweat and breaking internals?
BMW internals are supposed to be really strong. The rods are really beefy. Because Cully's engine was actually built here in his garage. By a few of us, in all fairness. They're really, really beefy. The pistons are pretty good. I think the pistons will give up before the rods, well and truly, but if you've got a decent mapper, which we all do, usually not too much an issue, but people stateside reckon they've seen like easily 600 horsepower stock internals, just decom plate, ARP head studs to stop it lifting.
Yeah. So
it is, I couldn't say a standard engine, but because you have to put the decom plate on, so you're going to do 1 or 2 bits and pieces. And in all fairness, that's not a huge amount of money really if you're doing it on, like if you're comparing it to a bigger budget build, say like a JZ or an RB. Like you can still get a Neo RB or even a stock RB will do 450. Times are different now to what they used to be. Like a RB25 is like £2,000 or something stupid for a stock one, and they're not very good. People probably hate me for this, but
I saw an RB
Neos are strong. But
I saw an RB20 selling a couple of days ago. No box, but with hot and cold side, 2,500.
Oh,
A Nissan, it just has to have a Nissan engine. It's a Nissan.
it's a Nissan.
Except for S15s. S15s should have come with 2Js.
Yes.
That's what Formula Drifters discovered.
Yeah, quite literally.
Favourite car movie?
Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
Days of Thunder.
Nice. Robbins Racing.
Robbins Racing.
Yeah, well, the son of a bitch just slammed into me!
No, he didn't slam into you, he didn't bump you, he didn't nudge you, he rubbed you. And rubbing's son is racing.
I'm out of here, Harry. I'm going to give you a... What did he say? He said, I'm going to give you a quarter-gallon bigger fuel tank, an extra oil pan.
All I can think of when you do that is the Gone in 60 Seconds Streamline Butterfly.
Oh, yeah. Nicolas Cage.
Nicolas Cage.
Yeah, no, it's got to be... I love that film.
Yeah.
It is literally Top Gun, but instead of planes, it's cars.
Top Gun and stock cars.
It is literally, if you watch the films back to back, you go, it's the same film. It quite literally is. But yeah, Robbins Racing.
Nice.
Days of Thunder.
So massive thank you to everyone who's watched, especially if you made it all the way to the end. Let me know what you would change on Mikey's drift car, or what you would do to tweak it and improve it. And if you want to see it in action, check out Bob Dove Motorsports on Facebook, and you'll see everywhere that it's going to be drifted. Now, going to be doing a few more of these series with different types of cars, so let me know if there's anything you would like to see. The only stipulation I have is that the person who I'm interviewing has to be the one that builds the car. It's a case of if you've built it, put it together with your own hands in your garage, then I want to hear from you. So leave a comment down below if you know of anyone who is worthy of a feature, and we've got a handful lined up already. So if you enjoy them, hit like, hit subscribe, and I'll see you soon.